Let me talk at ya. Welcome one and all to Not Just A Guy, the show about, by, and for struggling storytellers. I'm your host, Not Just A Guy, the guy, Garrett Briones, and I'm going to get right into it because this is a jam-packed episode of firsts. First off, we have, he is the title guest, but he's not the only guest. First time on the show, grip gaffer, collector of stuff, friend of the show, Chris Hall. Chris, hello. Welcome.
My name is Chris. I do miniature art, production art, set design, and grip and lighting, and a bunch of other stuff.
Thank you. You are one of the first people who has not been prompted to have to do that. Most people just go hi. But thank you. You already explained what you are. And also, folks, first time ever. This is history. I'm not going to lie. I did not think that this man would be the person to make this history, but he is the first ever returning guest on this show. Also, this is episode 11 and a half, not episode 12, 11 and a half, because of this man.
I like that
I get
the 0.5. I don't get a full.
Exactly. You are. Yeah, your episode is special.
I got a whole episode.
Okay, well, he spoke before he was prompted. Campbell Russell-Troutman, welcome back. He pulled the cuck Garot card, and now he is back. Campbell, I thank you as an order for letting you come back on, but you don't have to say it on air. I would appreciate it if you did, but you don't have to.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Chris, for having me on your show.
You're so welcome, dude. I'm glad I
man.
could on. I know we're gonna have a lot of good gaffes, a lot of good fun.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ensuring this? You're putting it on the record that this is gonna be okay.
This is gonna be a super cool, funny, good time, and I'm sure it'll be an hour well spent.
For those listening and or watching at home, we already have. There was like a pre-podcast before this that already. Maybe you'll see it one day. Maybe you won't. That's up to the editor. But we'll save it. Maybe we'll go behind a paywall one day. We'll see. So Chris, I asked this to every single guest. Campbell has been asked this. I also want to make sure I'm never leaving Campbell out. So I'm also looking back and forth between both of you. Campbell, don't worry. You will be kept involved.
I'm the cuck, so this kind of has
you just have to watch.
Watching.
Okay. Could you go sit on that toilet in the corner? And I think I might.
All the way back there.
Okay.
Couldn't even close the bathroom.
Chris. I thought you did not want pants. Oh my.
It's like a fucking nightmare, dude. What the hell?
If you are listening to this episode, please go to the YouTube, Not Just A Guy Productions. Please, you have to see this. Okay. Chris, I'm going to look down the barrel of the camera. I asked this to every single guest. Are you struggling?
I mean, in lieu of the strike in everything, granted, I'm sure before the strike, if you asked me that question, I would have said yes. But in lieu of strike and work problems and everything, it's fair to say I've had to take on a second job just to kind of keep up. But that's not to say that I have let my first job totally fall by the wayside. So yeah, I'm struggling.
I'm struggling because I was listening to what you were saying, but
he's lurking.
Okay, Campbell, you can come back now.
Come back now.
What?
You can come back now.
I can't hear you.
Oh, was he wearing headphones or something?
I thought so.
All the way over here. I can't hear you.
Oh.
Okay, well, we'll just move on from him. I was going to ask him a question. Oh,
so here it's
Are you wearing shorts or boxers?
No, it's just boxers.
You know me. I'm not wearing shorts.
I feel like I have to have Emily cover that.
You probably are. Here's the thing. You interviewed me in my house. I'm not dressing up.
Oh, I'm interviewing you. I have a question for you. It's been 2 weeks since your episode came out, maybe longer in the real world. I don't know. Time is a flat circle. How have you been have you been struggling since the last time you were on here? And how so?
Yeah, about the same. About the same. Honestly, it's work is hard. You get to meet some famous people, which is great, but there's a lot going on and a lot of expectations set, and you got to meet them a lot.
Okay. Have you stroked your ego? Has anybody stroked your ego in the last 2
Nobody
weeks?
stroked me in a very long time. Keep that in.
That's not up to me. Okay.
I wasn't asking. I'm not asking you. I'm asking the editor, who I know. Keep that in.
Yeah. She controls all. Well, more or less. Okay. So Chris.
Yeah.
I asked Campbell this, and for some background for the people. Once again, Chris joins the long line of guests that I met at that wonderful, once in a lifetime. What words can we use to describe it? I met him at film school.
It's formative. Kind of like, how like kind of like good there's the phrase that like hard times make like strong people or whatever. Yes. No, bad times make strong people. Is that what did I fucking
something like that?
Basically the school was shit and we rose above.
That seems to be the running thing.
It's like not really, but not all of us moved away, so like surely something is going
something
right.
Stuck.
Yeah.
So yes, we met at film school. I met you before I met Campbell. Although I learned of the mythic being that is known as Campbell. I think I described him as an enigma wrapped in mystery in his last episode.
You described me as like this Bigfoot cryptid that was just lumbering around the pool.
Man of mystery.
I only ever heard of you. I never saw you.
If James Bond was fucking like cooler, that would be Campbell and Russell-Troutman.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. That really stroked my ego. There you
go. You lived across the pond. We should be starting a campaign for you to be the next Bond.
That's true.
We should.
I think with my hairline.
You're technically British. You have the roots.
Why do you keep going to your hairline? You look fine. You
brought
this up on the pre-podcast.
No, I don't. Okay. I'd like to point out that this is a recurring bit. He always jokes that I make fun of the fact that he's bald. I don't. He takes things that I say and skews it into so I'm balding, and it's rude and it's mean and it's manipulative. Yeah.
Are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Troutman.
Okay. So I'd like to say that this recurring bit that I do admit is a bit now started because they did originally start, because what would happen is a fucking character.
Immediately, it was a bit that we would.
Because Pig from Barnyard would come on screen, and then Evan would be like, "Hey, kid, that kind of looks like you," and then I'd be like, "Okay, great." And so eventually, he would do this thing where he would find ugly characters, and he would be like, "Campbell," and then Chris would come and join in because he's Evan's little butt buddy, and so then I started to retaliate.
Evan's not here to defend himself.
Hang on. I started to retaliate, and now it's a problem. Now it's an issue because the victim has spun it against the oppressor. All right.
Yes, Evan takes grotesque photos and is just kind of like, it looks like you. To be fair, I have also received a fair amount of this. He compares me to Evan. What's the character that I'm your profile picture?
Lorax.
O'Hare, is it still? Yeah, it's O'Hare from the Lorax, and it hurts so bad. He just.
I didn't know this was going to turn into couples counseling, but I mean, hey, if we're healing, that's what's all important. Okay.
Campbell has decided to be vocal, so
I'm never healing. I have too much hatred burning in my heart.
That's true.
Okay. I don't even know what to say.
You had like notes and an agenda for this, right?
Yes. I mean, I actually stripped down my notes because I felt like I was getting a little too. I wanted to be a little more loose, I wanted it to be like D&D, where I lay in my chair and I have like my feet up on the desk. I wanted it to be a little more loose. But Chris, there was something that. I would see you around. We had some classes together. We hit it off. We had acting together. All these things.
Acting class together. That was interesting.
we'll get to that. We were into, we were both into Star Wars, things like that. But then I remember crucially, there was one thing that I knew bonded us. And that was the fact that I mentioned I was from Porterville, California. And you were one of the only people that actually knew what the heck I was talking about.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I want to know I want you to tell the people where you grew up, what was high school Chris like, and when did you know you wanted to get involved in film?
Okay, so I am from Bakersfield. So I was born in Santa Clarita, California. But I, for the most part, was raised in Bakersfield, California. The middle of California. I would say the only place in California that likes to think that it's not in California, or certainly the loudest place that likes to think it's not in California. To be diplomatic, I will say that it was not my vibe. It was not a place that I really enjoyed.
Why not?
Huh?
Why not?
It's just not a.
No, we don't. Regale us with what?
No, it's very hot for one and very dry.
Yes.
But LA's pretty hot though.
Not that. No. Okay,
it's more dry, arid.
Actually, this is I'll do it. This is a little science moment for your fucking podcast. So, essentially, the valley that that Bakersfield sits in, the Kern Valley, it's a giant bowl in the middle of California. And how a lot of the kind of air pressures work, especially involving a lot of the major cities in northern and southern California, being San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and some such other large cities. So basically, all the pollution from those cities gets carried up in the air and gets brought over to Bakersfield, where it sits in a bowl. And it doesn't leave because it's trapped by a ring of mountains. And so whenever I drive back, you can quite literally see the sky getting grayer. And that's like a cool metaphor, I think. I think that's a very fun visual metaphor for Bakersfield. And not to say that there are positive things about. Oh God, I can't believe it. There are positive things about Bakersfield for sure. Old Town Bakersfield is cool. There are an insane amount of thrift shops down there. A lot of really cool small businesses and small stores that I, in high school, spent a lot of time just kind of wandering around and popping in and out of. There were a lot of like thrift shops with like basements and just like fucking chests full of like old photos and stuff, and I just sit there for hours just like flipping through. It's just like fun, the little kind of stuff. There obviously Bakersfield has a lot of problems very publicly. But like,
Campbell, had you ever heard of Bakersfield before you met Chris?
Before I met Chris, no. And then I learned that it is an ongoing gag in this entire state that Bakersfield is like the butthole of it.
It's the armpit. Thank you very much. The armpit. It's the devil's armpit.
Butthole. Answer the question.
Huh?
What is the butthole of California?
What is the butthole of California? Pasadena.
You hear that? If you're from Pasadena, you're pure shit.
That was a lie. That was a joke. Well, so Bakersfield, all of Central California is just a very weird, nebulous.
It's a very odd place.
But there was a second part of that question. Yes, right.
I think maybe, and I could be wrong. I would assume, as someone who grew up in the Tulare County, right next to the Kern County. Actually, when you cross from Kern, you go from a nice like paved road, like really smooth, and then the second you enter Tulare, it's bumpy and old and crappy. That's how you always know you're in Tulare County, where I'm from.
There you go.
Not a big film scene in the Tulare County. So, how did you end up getting into the film scene?
Bakersfield also does not have a big filmmaker scene. I would say, I mean, there was like, I don't know, people shot stuff, but it wasn't like anything you could really get involved in. Like I remember like just kind of because I like rode my bike to school like freshman and sophomore year of high school. Like there was just a lot of like interaction that I just kind of saw. And I would like see kind of people like filming like YouTube stuff like at the park. Like it was just kind of like stuff like that was kind of the most that anything ever was. I got involved with film because so usually I mean, granted, I had always kind of had a giant love for film and media in general, like comic books, movies, music. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, and so the media is what I kind of related to, and it kind of helped me develop relationships with other people later on. It was kind of how I learned to communicate with people, how I learned to communicate with family members. It was kind of talking about like movies and music and stuff like that. And it wasn't, and I'd always kind of just had this giant love for like art and stuff. But it wasn't until I was at like a summer program thing and they were kind of like really sitting us down and they were like, you have to come up with like a presentation on like what you want to do, like what do you want to do. And I had kind of had a very kind of like weird, I had thought I was going to go into the medical field because I had a small kind of, I'm sure a lot of people in the medical field kind of relate to this kind of like a weird like moment, like crisis moment where like you just kind of feel useless, like you're just kind of like, fuck, I don't know what to do. And so like after that you're just kind of like, what could I have done? Like, you know what I mean, you kind of research like what is the kind of stuff to do. And so that informed where I went to high school, because I went to Stockdale High School, which I at the time had, I don't, probably still does, had a medical kind of program, like a tract that you could take, that like essentially was like an elective course that would kind of help to like teach like a lot of the basic beginner stuff in medicine. And I had signed up for that. It was the reason that I went to that high school. I was like an out of district transfer. And at first like class like that I took, like I was just like fucking banging my head against the desk. I was just like, I can't do this. Like I had read like medical textbooks like prior to like one of my dad at one point in time was training to be an EMT, and so like we had kind of a bunch of medical textbooks around the house, and so like I had like read those and kind of like had a little bit of like cursory knowledge, but it was like it wasn't until like kind of being in class, like I've just never really been a very good student that way, like kind of realizing what medical school and like the learning of that would kind of look like. I was just like, oh, I can't fucking do this. That's crazy. Wow, that's so weird. I can't do this. And so I dropped out of that like in the like two weeks into the class. And I like talked to my counselor. I was like, well, what else is there to do? And she was like, well, you can join drama. Like there's a drama class. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I had like met some kind of friends that like were also like kind of had done drama, like we're in kind of that beginner drama class. And so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And that really kind of like, I don't know, like that really kind of, it was a very big shift for me, because drama kind of slowly, as I kind of like started to get involved more and more with it, kind of really made some really good friends like that were like involved very heavily with it, like people in the you know, the drama kid orbit. It really kind of shifted. Like I was just kind of like, could I like do this? Like not acting, but like something like this, like, you know, like people make money doing something like this. And I would get going to that job, like that summer camp thing. Like they were kind of like sitting us down and they were like, what do you want to do? And I like my brain for some reason immediately went to the movie Tron Legacy. And I like just kind of had a moment where I was like, somebody got paid to make that movie. Like somebody like made like their like rent and like was able to pay their bills and stuff by like working on that movie. And I was like, I can maybe fucking do that, right? Like, and so I made like I kind of did like some research, like because they made us like kind of like hit some like bullet points of like how much money like would this kind of field make, like what do you specifically want to do, like that kind of stuff. So I obviously just kind of went with like director as kind of like a general thing. Like I kind of filled out the general thing, talked about like filmmaking as a whole, and was like, people make movies and shit, man. Like, what if I did that? And they were like, oh yeah, I guess you like could do that. And so like that's really kind of when I started to take it more seriously. And I was like, okay, like what if I like I was like if I'm gonna do this, what does that kind of look like? Like what is that? And so, you know, you do it every kid in high school that like kind of decides they want to do film does, and there's no film around, is that you just grab your shitty little like Canon camera that your parents buy you for Christmas, and like you like record some random like whatever something and edit it to music on iMovie, just kind of practice shit. And it's like it's not, even at the time, like I was like, this is not good. Like I was very embarrassed, kind of like I was very hesitant to like show it to friends and stuff, just because I was like, fuck, like this is like weird, like sincere. Because like when you're starting out, you don't know how to do funny stuff, so it's all like sincere, and so or at least you don't know how to do funny stuff well. It is possible to do, and doing that kind of stuff demonstrated to my parents at least, like, oh, like it is possible to do. Like it's not like kind of some like it is not. I mean, it is movie magic, but it is not literal magic. You know what I mean? Like, it is quite literally like a physical thing that you are able to do. So
Campbell, what did Tron Legacy mean to you?
How did Tron Legacy affect you, Campbell?
What did you think about Clue and Rensler?
Changed my life.
I'm not even like doing a bit right now when I say that Tron Legacy is one of, Chris and I were literally talking about the night. Tron Legacy is one of those like underrated movies to.
Hell yeah, it is.
People today will absolutely be like, oh, that shitty reboot that they tried to do or something like that. And Chris and I were saying, dude, as far as reboots go, they wrote the fucking handbook, because good God, was that movie fucking incredible. That movie was an orchestra of synth and excitement. The choreography, the set design, all of it was on brand. They like, I don't like that they retconned Clue to be a bad guy, even though he was just like a one-off. But seeing at the end of like, what the fuck's his name? Oh my God, Jeff Bridges fucking face down himself, and look back at the CGI, it looks bad, but I don't even care.
I mean, like, listen,
the excuse I make in that moment, even though he was bad CGI at the very beginning, the excuse I make in that moment was because he's in the game. That's why it looked like that. But yeah, no, like them literally having a tender moment, and then like the meaningfulness of his dad fucking sacrificing himself. Beautiful, chef's kiss. I just don't like at the end how both of them were like, oh well, my dad's dead. Like the guy I came in here to get.
That's crazy. Now let's ride off into the sunset. It is a little like, what are we doing? He's like, I got the grid. Let's go.
I got the grid. I got the girl. Forget dad. Who needs him?
We're just getting it. Listen, I got what I need. I'm getting the hell out of here.
I will say, open up my because I had the same. This is the first time I've heard Chris talk about this stuff. I had the same moment in my life where I was also like, someone got paid to do this. I want to get paid to do this. And I think that moment for me was probably like, because I was an edgy little teenager, so probably like a Quentin Tarantino movie or something. Frankly, I don't remember what the movie was. But yeah. Okay.
Well, hey, I love that movie. Some of my favorite toys are from that movie, where they have the actors' faces.
I have one of those.
They're incredible. I love those.
One. I had the Sam one and the Clue one as a kid, and they were some of my favorite. The hologram.
Those exact two I have.
I was like, we're in the future. I was like, I have a futuristic action figure. This is the future of action figures right here. And then they never did it ever again, which is valid, because when they're not lit up, they look really weird. But it's cool.
The thing I loved about those were like, not to say that there's not any like iconic lines in there. I can think but like they chose the most random lines for them. Like
it's one of them's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, this is it. Come on.
Yeah,
my name is Sam Flynn. I'm not a program. And then Clue had like
it's totally just like very random like clips. And granted, there's never like a time, I don't think, where he is like just kind of like, it's not a very quippy movie. But like the Clue figure was a little better than the Sam one because it just kind of like spit out like menacing lines.
Yeah, he had like, "Oh, you'll get what you deserve" when he betrays Zeus. Like,
yeah,
great movie, great inspiration. Yeah. Well, you know what? Look at this. We're reminiscing about good times with film, and then we get to the dark times.
Oh God,
Chris Hall.
Yeah.
How did you? I saw Campbell's face.
The dark time.
Making YouTube reaction face. Chris.
Yeah.
How did you? I love to ask people this specific question.
Yeah.
How did you hear about the hollowed halls of Columbia College Hollywood, and how did you end up there?
Google. I googled film schools in Los Angeles, and it was the one to pop up with the highest acceptance rate.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, that'll do. And they had a summer program for high school students. And so I went and did that for a week. And I stayed with my stepsister's boyfriend at the time. I stayed with him and his family in Santa Clarita for a week while I this kind of like CCH program. That's where I met a few people there before the school actually started. That's why. That's how I knew, like during orientation, there were like one or two people that I was like, I know you, I remember you. But I did that for a week. It was kind of like a crash course into film, and coming from a place that like no knowledge of film, no, like this is the first time anybody's ever inside baseballing fucking film to you. It was amazing. It was everything that I could have wanted to be. You know what I mean? Like as somebody that's just kind of like only seen like just kind of the features on like DVDs, and like it's like there's very limited like BTS of like what's going on, and like there's not like there's a transparency in film now like that I maybe just because I was a kid or maybe because I was a teenager I just wasn't really aware of it, but certainly I didn't feel that transparency as hard. And so like again, like somebody kind of really breaking down like, you know, these are the roles on set, these are the names you see in the credits, these are what they do, these are the dominions that they have over, this is like the hierarchy, this is what it is, like and like then getting to kind of like shoot something like with actual equipment, like, you know, I mean granted it's fucking like C200s like stuff like that, but like real equipment, like more so than like what you will have access to on your own, you know. And so like actual kind of like boom like recorders and everything, and like it's so I did that. I purposefully botched my other college applications so that CCH was the only one that I got accepted to. My mom was very surprised that I didn't get accepted to CSUN, and I was like, I know, crazy, right? Anyway, it's CCH place. But to be fair, CCH was the most affordable. Like, I don't know if I had gone to like a CSUN or like another kind of like college, like how like, I mean, granted, I'm already financially in a hole, but like from student loans, but like I would be in a much larger hole, I assume. But it was kind of, it was like sort of affordable. It was like, again, had a very high acceptance rate. So like I was just kind of like, I like film, and they were like, okay, come on in. And I think you'd literally have to be like, I hate film, and then CCH would be like, okay, maybe don't come. Although there were some people.
I was about to say there were far too many people who were like, oh yeah, I'm not doing anything in film. That I was like, why are you?
It is.
Why?
It is a little.
Why here?
It's like if it was like CSUN and they were like trying out the film program, yeah, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. You're just
taking like an intro to film class at like a college that offers other things, but like CCH was like 2 steps away from a trade school, basically. So like the fact
it was a trade school, was it not?
Was it?
Basically,
I think like marks.
You know what they should do is they should have like a school that has like nothing to do with California, like, and then they should like make a partnership and then like change the name from CCH and like just kind of like make it a completely different school or something. That's kind of crazy.
Really
Crazy
cool.
idea.
That'd be a really cool and smart move if they did that. That would be
Campbell,
fun.
yes.
So I want to share a fun fact. Before I went to CCH, I went to University of Arizona for 2 years.
Brag about it much.
The bitter rival of University of Arizona that like is religiously scrawled into every wall on the school is fuck ASU. ASU were our bitter rivals to the end. What do I find? The school that absorbed our fucking school is fucking ASU back from the fucking grave.
So it's your fault.
Escape ASU.
It's your fault. They followed you. You brought them in.
They were going after Campbell. They were like, how are we gonna get back at the ASU?
Make his degree no longer have the name of the school he went to.
So when they look it up, it's now a different school.
Yeah, if you go to the website, completely different school.
Yeah. But so yeah, I got into CCH. I moved out early because I graduated. I think I graduated like a bit early. And so I was like, there was kind of the option of like, do I sit around for like 3 or 4 months, or do I just kind of have like 2 weeks of summer and then move to college? And I was like, I'll just do 2 weeks of summer and then move to college. Like, fuck it, whatever. And so I just kind of had like a quick little break after high school, and then I moved to college, and I met Evan, my roommate, and then soon after met that guy, and now I'm here, and I'm tired.
Did you know that you wanted to? How did you end up, wanting to do grip and gaff? Did you know is that always what called to your heart? Or
I mean, like, it's not really what I do right now, admittedly.
Okay.
I for the past year and a half, I've been mostly doing art department work. I got a job at an art studio that does set design and props and fucking basically everything else under the sun. And work has kind of been very start and stop lately, but like last year I was working pretty heavy on, and it was very cool. I got to work on a lot of very cool projects. But I think the place that I'm at now was definitely like a long road, a long journey of kind of like trying out different stuff. And like, I don't know, you get to film school and obviously everybody's like, I'm gonna be a director, and it's like, okay, like let's see how that goes. And I very quickly started ADing for sets because I guess I just don't like waiting for things. I was just kind of like, all right, let's go, come on, let's get this shit going. So I randomly like met an upperclassman in like the poor excuse for a cafeteria, the little small, I was about to call it a cafeteria. It's a little closet that they had like a coffee maker and like cook cups and shit and cupboards. And there was a fridge in there, and he just was like, fuck, somebody ate my lasagna. And I was like, wow, that's shitty. Why would somebody do that? Yeah. And he was just like, yeah, wow, that's crazy. You go to this school? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And he was like, so you like want to work on, because he was like, oh, what do you do? And I had helped a friend at the time with a YouTube video, like shooting a YouTube video. And this was while I was at CCH. I had worked on it with her, and I kind of like, she was kind of just like running the show for most of it. Like it was just like 3 dudes acting and her doing like everything else, and me stupid and like I didn't know anything. And so I was just like, what can I hold clipboard, like fucking like whatever. And so I was just kind of like trying to help and manage everything else. And afterwards she was just kind of like, like she's like, you could probably like do like AD work or something. like just based on like the stuff that I did like on there. Like she just kind of like was throwing out like a whatever, like something you could roughly whatever. And so when this guy asked like, oh, like what do you do? I was like, I want to be a director, but right now I'm doing AD work. And he was like, oh, that's crazy. I actually need an AD for my D2 project that I'm working on. Do you want to come help out? And so I was like, yes, yeah, I guess. Not realize, like, I thought I was just kind of gonna like puff on my chest and be like, yeah, I do AD work, and like that was kind of gonna be the end of it. And he was gonna be like, oh, well, maybe we'll call you later. I didn't expect him to be like, oh, well, like, are you free, like, on Saturday? And so it was just like, yeah. And so I got on set. I was a PA the day before. There was an AD on the first day, and there was a different AD. And so I just like shadowed him the whole day, just like following him around, like just making mental notes about like everything he was doing, everything he was saying, kind of like how he was talking to people, like what he was doing. And I was just kind of like, fuck, okay, like I have to repeat this tomorrow. And I mean, it is fine. Like, you know, like you can, I mean, there was obviously a confidence issue at first, like talking to crew and stuff when you're starting to AD is very scary, and crew are gonna recognize that and are just kind of like, what the fuck ever, dude. And it's like there were some like shoots that I AD'd where it was actually insane, that just like you can kind of like be like, hey guys, like we legally can't be in this house anymore. We kind of have to leave. And the DP's like, yeah, one more shot though. And it's like, no.
Just one more.
You don't understand. You don't have any more money. Like you didn't pay. Like the homeowners are gonna
still rolling.
Like fucking no, it's crazy. And so I started ADing, did that. I did that for long enough to realize that not only did I not like ADing, but I didn't like directing also. Like I just kind of saw, like I had a friend that I constantly AD'd for, and I'm pretty sure I've told him this too. Like I saw kind of how stressed he was all the time directing, and I was just like, wow, I don't want to do that. And I understand that, like if you're maybe like certain kinds of directors can kind of like anticipate that and catch it, and they're like, like they work really well with it. But like I like the idea of kind of having to juggle all of that, and like people at random times being like, somebody's dying, everything's falling apart, and you have to just kind of be like, all right, I will deal with this in a very calm and level-headed manner. And it's like, Christ, that's horrible. And so I was kind of looking around on set, and I was like, well, who's having the best time here?
Yeah.
Who's really kind of like, who's like, and I realized something that I had always kind of like felt like, damn, I kind of want to do that. Was watching like the G&E people, the Grip and Electrics, kind of like going around doing their stuff, kind of hulking about and big like chest rigs and like side packs and like crazy wilder people. And it was cool. And I did that for years. I was like the grip guy at school for like a good like 2 years. And that was fun. And I really enjoyed doing that. I think doing grip and electric work on set, especially on smaller sets, is very fun, and there is a very big freedom in it. The minute because I freelanced for about two and a half years. And it's I mean, it's obviously a different beast. You know what I mean? Like film school stuff. And I mean, great. There's paid stuff is so much fun. Like there's so much opportunity. There's so much kind of cool stuff you get like to do and get to set up and get to play with. Like the bigger the budget is, the more toys you get to play with. And that's just cool. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like I just got very exhausted by, I mean, for one, just like the workload, the insane, like as grips are very much like the pack mules of film, where it's like they are the ones to show up the earliest and they are the last ones to leave, and it sucks. And like I've had to work like 14-16 hour days, and like when it was supposed to just be like an 8 to 12 maybe, and like I like texting like my girlfriend like, hey, I'm really sorry that
I'm not coming home tonight.
I'm not coming home. It's gonna be a while. And like it sucks. And I mean, it's very tiring. And I mean, great. Like working on set is very fun and very fulfilling and very cool. But I can only drive out to the Santa Clarita Desert so many times before I'm like, why am I here? So I especially like my senior year, like I really kind of like started to pivot a bit. I mean, there was also, a pandemic. So like work was not what it once was.
Yeah.
And things kind of slowed down a bit, and I had been inside for a while. And I had kind of had a bit more free time to myself. And I was still working on set through the pandemic. Like I was still working quite a bit through like heavy COVID protocols and masks and face shields and everything. It was a very, I remember, oh God, what a laborious time. But I had a lot of time inside and a lot of kind of time to really kind of kick around with like, cause I was technically, as much as I did grip and electric work at the school and for everybody, I was technically a DP. Like I technically at the school, I was like, my degree is in cinematography. Like as much as I did grip and electric work, like I'm like especially senior year, like they were like, all right, you got to be thinking like a DP, like you got to DP shit. You gotta like make a reel. And so in just kind of thinking like, well, what do I want to shoot? Because I don't want to just kind of like grab an Alexa and go to the beach and kind of just like shoot people kissing all the time. And I've done that, and it's difficult. And like, I don't know if I want that to be my whole reel. And so like, what I did was, because I was in a history of special effects class with Vince Toto, the GOAT, the man, the myth, the legend, one of the best teachers at a CCH. I feel so bad that I have not reached out to that man in a very long time. But he was very awesome. Cool. He worked on Dread. He worked on Dread 3D. That was cool. I asked him so many questions about that. I geeked out so much about that. I feel so bad. I was taking a history of special effects class with him, and we were really kind of like watching like a documentary about Alien and documentaries about like Star Wars and stuff like that, and really kind of going into how like the Dyson Flex camera was developed for Star Wars and kind of the initial like how you shoot spaceships, like the technical, like the equipment you use, like what you do, like how like 2001 kind of like pioneered it with like pictures on glass, and like Star Wars kind of really ramped it up with like inventing a whole camera rig thing to repeat moves over and over and over, and like and like kind of like getting to kind of test some of that stuff out like for myself, like kind of like was like like what if I was kind of like, it just kind of reignited like it put the two and two together of like all the nerd shit that I love and like the actual work that I was doing, because I had mostly been working on like music videos and like kind of like short films and dramas and stuff. Like there's not a lot of people in film school being like, let's shoot a high concept sci-fi, and so like and it's good and it goes well. Like the two of those things coexist. But like,
we can go over if we'd like. We can go over the type of stuff people were shooting. I didn't really cover that last episode, so
hold off on that actually, because when Chris finishes his thought, the next question I was gonna ask was your best. I was gonna, the best thing about film school, but also gonna ask your biggest pet peeve about film school or some of the filmmakers that we went. You don't have, obviously not naming anybody, but just concepts generally,
ideas.
Yes. So Campbell, when he finishes his thought, you go, and then that will give Chris time to think.
So Star Wars broke my brain at a young age, of course, and now I'm like this. And so what I started doing is
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George. I'd been working on model kits since high school. I was big into kind of like card games in high school, and so I hung around comic book stores and kind of like those nerdy shops where they just kind of sell nerd shit, and it's great. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh God, I was such a Yu-Gi-Oh! Just a little grub, a little like the backpack on and the cards, and it was so annoying. But when I was there, one of my friends in high school, he was into Gundam, and he had watched TV shows, and he and his dad, they built Gundams together, and they bought big, like expensive ones, and they kind of like did all the work. And I remember going over to his house one time and kind of seeing their little display case and just kind of going like, oh damn, that's kind of cool. And so when we were kind of at like a store, one of those little like nerdy comic book shops, they were selling like little Gundam kits because, like, you know, it's Bakersfield, so there's not you don't really get like model kit shop to comic book shop. Like, it's just kind of like, we'll just put it
all
up
together,
whatever nerd stuff we
whatever
can
sticks.
And so I remember getting Iron-Blooded Orphan. Was those kits were like kind of just coming out and like were really big at the time. And so I got kind of some of those, and I started building those very messily, very haphazardly. Still have them, and I look back at them, and I'm just like, yeah. It's just kind of like a fun reminder of kind of like how far you come, because like, I don't know, some of the stuff I make now is very cool and a lot more detailed than kind of a weird, shitty little model kit. But at the same time, like I had the practice, I did this stuff, and by the time like I was in college, especially by my senior year, I'd gotten pretty good at it. Like I especially because I played D&D, like I got into like painting D&D minis, and I built a lot of model kits. And so I had quite a few like just kind of little spaceship kind of little models that I had like painted and done stuff too. And so I just laid on my kitchen floor, and I got a little kind of like roller skate rig from like Wish, and I screwed it on my camera, and I got a little green screen banner behind it and threw the spaceships on a little armature wire and did the little like whooshed my camera by the spaceships and just kind of did all the comping and everything myself. And I was like, that was so incredibly fulfilling. I was like, and like kind of sitting back and looking at the final product. I also like I poked a ton of holes and kind of like black cardboard, and I like shot like that, like with movements and stuff, and like out of focus and in focus, and a bunch of different plates for like stars and stuff. And so I had made my own plates, and I had made my own like everything. And so just kind of looking at like a spaceship in space, and just kind of knowing that like everything in this I have made and done. Edited and everything. It was just so like it was crazy that I was like in the 4 years of film school, this is probably like the most fulfilling thing that I've ever made. And I loved this. I want to do more of this. And but I don't have access to a lot of model kits, people that like do miniatures and stuff. So I just started doing it myself. And I did it to the point where when I graduated, one of the first things I did was I took kind of the few like buildings and spaceships and weird stuff for action figures that I had built, and I kind of emailed it to a like art studio, and I interviewed there, and I got a job as a runner, and now I do art stuff for them sometimes.
Well, hey, that's the stuff I love to hear. You know, this show is about the struggles, but also the struggles will bear fruit. And so
it's the whole time struggling, of course. Mind you, it is terrifying and a struggle, and just like leap after leap after leap. And like, you know, the expression of like, don't put your eggs all in one basket. I just like consistently have put all my eggs in one basket, and it is, and I just kind of like put all the, and I just kind of keep being like, well, it'll work eventually if I just kind of keep these eggs in this basket, I guess. Okay. I don't know. It's
Mr. Russell-Troutman, the floor is yours. What did you want to complain about? What's on your mind?
We were just talking about like, you know, things other people made and things like things that we didn't like, and I was just joking around because I was like, I know I briefly last episode touched on the type of films I didn't like from some of the kids, and I was just like, hey, we could talk about it again. I may or may not have asked those kids to do things to themselves that was probably
that didn't make it to the air. I'll let you know right now, that didn't make it to the air.
I'm disappointed that it didn't, because I still stand by that statement. But
you described those films as depressed guy is depressed. Am I quoting you correctly? That's how you describe it.
That's a good quote.
That's a fair way to describe a lot of the things that come out of film school. Admittedly, they're like maybe I'm just trying. Maybe I just don't remember. Like they just kind of all blend together. Yeah. Like I remember like some projects being cool, like some things that were like, all right, like I see somebody's kind of trying to do something here. but like, oof, yeah, a lot of I mean,
Chris, the reason they blend all together in your head is because they were the same fucking movie. It was the same goddamn movie remade over and over again.
Here's the deal, right? I think this is a much larger, like, I think this is a systemic film school issue that kind of comes with the infancy of like trying to make movies and shit, trying to like emulate what you see in movies, like in a movie. And I think that that's kind of the problem, maybe, is that like you. I guess I'll stop speaking generally and just kind of speak more directly. There were a few short films that I worked on, a lot of short films that I worked on. There were about, I mean, obviously, to say adult topics is like, but it was like kind of like, it's like drug running and like drugs, like with I'm dealing drugs. This is like, and like they're like, oh, the mafia, oh, the mafia is gonna come after you for all these drugs, and
I completely forgot about those kinds of movies because those also were on my shit list.
And maybe again, it's just because I worked on a lot of those where it was like we're having like a 23-year-old pretending to be like a 35-year-old with a kid, and like give a bunch of like 19-year-olds. They're like, yeah, this person's old. Like, yeah, roll it.
It was the same thing too with that, where it was always like, we got to move the drugs now. We got to move the drugs now.
Everybody has their very ill-fitting
or Dimitri's going to be real upset. And then Dimitri comes in and he's got like a really bad either Eastern European, New York, or
like just whatever. Like,
hey, I'm Dimitri.
Most of the time, actually, they did not put on an accent. They were just like, where are my drugs? What's going on with the drugs? Yo, a poorly angled, like blocked shot.
Oh yeah, all of it is
today, kid.
A flat wall in a sound stage because they were like, oh, no, it'll be so much better if we build the set. I just worked on and everybody has like an ill-fitting suit because like it's too expensive to afford tailored suits. So like everybody just kind of brings whatever they have at home, and so none of it matches. Yeah. And like it's great. And like great. Like granted, I don't. This is not like don't try try to do things, but like something that I tried to keep in mind the entire time working on stuff in film school was keeping in mind the scope of what I had to work with and how I could keep that as real as possible. And especially when I DP'd, like this was something that I tried to kind of have conversations with directors about too. Like, cause they were like, I want to shoot in this classroom. I want to make it look like this. And I'd be like, okay, hear me out. What if we use a real location? So that way we don't have to like pretend that the classroom is an art gallery. We can just maybe go to like an art gallery, then be like, hey, we're film students. Can we like film here like before you guys open? And they'll be like, yeah, you guys got like an hour. You know what I mean? Like that stuff happens. Like that, like there were plenty of like weird, like random like stores and stuff that were just kind of like, you didn't like, was like, can we film here? And they were like, yeah, I don't know, go for it. Like, because you're like not a problem. Like, so like, I don't know, like the idea that like you have to make a movie like how Martin Scorsese makes a movie is truly like, it's like, you don't have to do that. You can actually try to like, and I get it. You know what I mean? Like I get the like want to like, you want to emulate the stuff that you like, you know what I mean? Like I can't lie and say that like things that I wrote and did weren't reminiscent of like Edgar Wright and like other weird directors. Like, but that is to say that I tried to stay very kind of like grounded with what I was doing. Like I tried to shoot like houses and tried to do stuff like that because like, I don't know. I don't want to work with like the classroom that looks like a boardroom or like the classroom that looks like, you know what I mean? It's like,
there were, I think, look, I'm guilty of this. My original thesis, it was my take on like a Daredevil-esque character. And when I had actual producers look at it, they were like, how much are you trying to raise on Kickstarter? And I was like, oh, like 4,000. They're like, who told you 4,000? This is like, you would have to start at 10. And I was like,
I think it's one of those things, especially as a director, like it's hard to know what the scope, like how much you can do. Like it's something that you have to work on set for a while and kind of like be like, oh, like as much as things are doable, like as much as like, yo, you can do that, it does require you to do them. And sometimes doing them is a little difficult and a little hard to execute. And it turns out that the thing in that movie is so cool because it was actually really hard to get.
Yeah. You know, so that's why I've
5 days
for the time
$1 million to get that fucking shot. Like
right. And almost like it took them like 40 takes to get that shot right.
I blame YouTube. I'm going to be honest with you. I blame YouTube because there are a bunch of amateur directors who share their BTS footage. Mind you, they have like the backing of like a small studio. So they still have the resources, but they're like, oh yeah, to get this sweeping shot, we didn't actually use a gimbal. We used a rotating stool and we put a stack of books on it with the DSLR.
I just had my friend
Mikey had to hold it steady the whole time.
Like
poor Mikey. Sorry, that really stuck with me. But yeah, I fully understand, like, you know, and it's why I've for the time being, because, you know, your boy be struggling. I've switched to, you know, primarily the main creative thing I'm working on is an audio drama, which I have to start recording with this Yahoo soon. That's going to be fun. I'm scared. I haven't directed. Campbell's going to be the first person I've directed in like, that isn't me in years.
I expect to get very annoyed and very frustrated very quickly.
Me or you?
No, me. I expect myself to be, but I expect you to be annoyed at my attitude. And I'm going to be like, you're going to be like, Campbell, you did not deliver that right. You need to do that again. And I'm going to be like, what do you mean I need to do it again? That was perfect.
No, one take in my contract. I only do one take.
I only do one take for each line. I only do one take.
You said the word wrong. I don't care.
I don't care.
Fix it in post.
Fucking.
You have an editor, don't you?
Another line.
The editor.
Well, the editor is the same editor as this year product.
I know.
Relax, okay?
I'm not gonna relax. That editor bullied me.
We're on air. We have to pretend like we like each other. Calm down, okay? We have to. We're not gonna be able to sell the product if we have contention. I'm even trying to bring you in on the writing side of it. So relax, okay?
Yeah,
this is all staying in. This is all staying.
You never invited me to write for this. You don't trust my.
You lie. You liar. Off air the last time I told you I wanted you to help me on one of the projects, which is going to be a ploy just to get you to help me to write more of them.
You should have said that to begin with. I would have said yes.
Campbell, do you want to write some of the episodes of the audio drama with me?
Of course, I want to do that.
Okay, well, this is legally binding. It's on camera and it's on tape.
That's something.
We got him. We got him, boys. We got him. Okay.
Chris, this was your episode, right?
Yeah, but you know.
He is the featured person. It will say with Chris Hall, featuring Campbell Russell-Troutman.
Thank you.
So we've run the whole gamut of everything. We've even touched on topics that I had, but these were some that were actually put forward. These are some things I think needs to be touched upon a little bit more on the show, and they were, well, she's been mentioned like 50,000 times contractually. Emily, she put these forward. There are two things. Chris, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about work-life balance. Because I don't think you have one sometimes. I think I've caught you at a point where you have some. And Campbell, I would also love to hear your thoughts on this topic, and then also how that relates to mental health. So, Chris, what? Explain to me your work-life balance.
For sure. I mean, I think it's okay. Obviously, right now is a very interesting time, but. Normally, yes, finding a work-life balance is pretty difficult, especially just because film as an industry, it kind of is very like you kind of have to be grateful to be there, and you always have to be ready and willing and like, oh yeah, sorry, I'll drop my grandmother's funeral to come to set, of course, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I mean, obviously, like, people are understanding, like, people are whatever, like, you're not going to get blacklisted just by not showing up once, but like, certainly, like, being there, like, it's exhausting, you know. It is exhausting, and even working on stuff that Yeah, go ahead.
I'll wait for you to finish.
Yeah, keep going. No, he can keep his arm up. No, keep going.
Working, because like I've had instances where like working on stuff that's like a dream come true, like stuff that I like. If I got to tell like childhood me that I worked on this thing, like he'd like lose his mind. But like even still, like I found myself like on that project, like getting like frustrated and like annoyed and and I mean, it not even just kind of like creatively, just like purely just from the amount of work, from the amount of time we were there, and like the length of time we were there, and like it would be like getting on like 9 p.m. and I'd been there since like early in the morning, and I'm just like, God, I really want to go home. Yeah. Like, it's very difficult, and I think, I mean, I think like weekends are important. I think definitely it's very, as difficult as it is, and as much as I may struggle with this problem, it is important to say no sometimes. And again, like I said, I struggle with that problem a lot. I overextend myself a lot. I work on like a lot of things, and then I say yes, and I look at my schedule, and then I'm just like, oh, I have no time to kind of like sit down and just kind of like enjoy myself. But like it's still like you still manage. I don't know. The things kind of film naturally kind of ebbs and flows, like the amount of work that you get. Like things kind of like pick up, and you're busy for like months and months, and then they slow down, and then you're like, my career's over. Oh my God, everything is gone. And then we're back, boys, and then we're immediately we're fucked. Like especially like when I was in film school and when I was just starting to do freelance and like stuff like that ebb and flow really freaked me out. Like, and I had seen like people drop out of film school for that literal reason. Like there was a guy that like, he was a really good editor. He was really good at everything. Like I was like, oh man, like, what are you planning on doing? And he was like, oh, I'm actually dropping out like next week because I figured out that it's not very consistent work. And I was like, well, that's very valid and unfortunate. Fuck, like, damn. Yeah, like it is, but like you kind of like, I don't know, like you after a while you can kind of anticipate the ebb and the flow, and you can kind of like use that to your advantage. You can kind of become aware, like, okay, like things are starting to slow down now. Like maybe I can finally start to pick up that video game I wanted to play, or maybe I can finally do that thing I wanted to do like with my free time, and not just kind of have the like one little 30-minute TV show that you allot yourself before you go to bed because that tight. It definitely does stuff to your mental health. And it definitely does stuff to your social life. I mean, granted, being out of college and working kind of kills your social life anyway, but like it's like you kind of, I mean, your friends are just kind of the people that you work around, the people that you be with all the time. And when you're not working with them all the time, it's kind of like, it's not to say that like you don't think about them all the time and you're like, but like it is, like, I don't know, like I just get so kind of caught up with just kind of like I don't have time to do things for me that like when I do, it's like I'm like, oh fuck, I haven't texted any of these people. Like, wow, that's crazy. And I feel very bad. But it's like, yeah, these are the things. And it's funny that I'm like, these are like, I have these problems. And then like you go on like any like film meme page, anything. And it's just like everybody like, wow, I wish my wish my social life wasn't fucking dead and diminished to only like, who's on the call sheet. Like, that's crazy.
Campbell.
Oh, my thought. Okay.
You put your arm down, but
I put my arm down because Chris touched upon the point that I was going to touch upon, because I was about to say, this man, I want to clarify, I don't fully hold by this because you did touch upon it. This man was making it sound like, he had to fucking trudge his way on every project that came his way, and not that he would show up at 5 a.m, beaten and exhausted, covered in dirt. And I was like, where the fuck have you been? And he's like, oh, I went to like Vegas for the day. There was a bunch of UCLA kids. God, they fucking suck. And I was like, why are you working on this? You could have said no, Chris. And he was like, yeah, I know, but God, I just like, you never know. And I'm like, you never know. When are you going to meet these guys again? And lo and behold, he never did.
Yes, there were admittedly there were a lot of projects that I maybe could have said no to and maybe saved myself a lot of grief. However, I think it's the part of the part of the problem with working on set is that you kind of have to be everywhere a lot, and people have to see your face a lot, and you have to kind of build up a reputation. People have to remember you, and you got to stay constantly in people's mind, because like it's very unfortunate, but like the minute you're kind of like not present to people, you are not the first person they consider, you know what I mean? And so like it's like, and that's why like it's, you kind of have to, like, as much as like, and granted, okay, you don't have to, but like you feel that you need to keep working on stuff and keep doing stuff, and like, oh, I gotta, this person asked me to do this, and I'll go do that. And granted, like, you know, you get on one job and you meet a guy there and he's like, oh, well, we need somebody for another job. And then you get on another job and you get it there, and it's kind of just keep it going until it dies for like a month or two. And then you get brought back by somebody else. And then the ball keeps rolling. Like, I don't know, you even on very bad projects, even on projects where it's like, wow, I maybe didn't need to be here for that. Like sometimes like you meet somebody there that it's like, oh, well, that person gets you a gig. It's like a really cool gig that you enjoy and are going to have a lot of fun with, or like a really nice opportunity, or like even just like kind of building a relationship further with, like, I don't know, like somebody else that you work with. Not to say like leaving them hanging out to dry is a bit much, but like the idea of just kind of like, you know, if you weren't there, they would have to do a lot more work, and maybe they wouldn't like notice, but like it's one of those things where it's like they definitely notice that you were there and that you helped. And so it is, as much as like, you know, coming home to like 2 odd hours of the night covered in dirt and sweat and just kind of ready to pass out, I get sucked. Having that like resume that I did of just kind of like listen, I had worked on like an indie feature like on and off for like months. I had like done like a bunch of other like kind of random stuff, like music videos, everything, and like having that resume made it to where when I got to the job and I got to the interview, like, even though I'm like, yes, hello, I'm fresh out of college, I'm a young boy, like, nice to meet you, like they like still like kind of, they weren't just kind of like, oh, that's nice, like, go away. Like they were like, oh shit, like, like they realized I actually had like I had on set experience, and not just kind of like film school on set experience, but like on set experience. Like I knew how to like handle myself on an actual like film set. And I wouldn't have been there had it not been for all of the many hours of me pulling my hair out and banging my head against the wall, because I just, like, you know, working on film student short films is working on film student short films. It is what it is, and not everybody has the best idea sometimes, and sometimes other people, for lack of a better idea, will just kind of go with it. That's admittedly, like, okay, it's fair to say that there was a fair amount of sets that I like had complaints about people on set that, like, you know, you complain about. It's still hard to find. You know, I'd be hard pressed to find anybody coming off of a set that didn't have at least one thing to complain about. But like, it's I, you know, there are fonder experiences than others.
As with anything in life. And so as we wind down the same way with not just any questions, the questions. Usually it's 6 questions, but you've already kind of answered 2 of them. So I'm going to ask you 4. You can your answer can be as long or as short as you want. And since there's 2 of you, there are going to be 2 questions that are for the both of you. So Chris, we're going to start. Every time you do that, I swear, every time you do that, you look like a YouTube reaction thumbnail. Okay, so Chris, we're gonna start with your 4. Usually you would get 6, but we're gonna start with your 4 because like I said,
I'm just that good.
So Chris, your first question: what is the most amount of effort you've had to put into tracking down a collectible?
Ooh,
Okay. So, 3 different targets so he could look for his fucking toy.
Shut up. Okay. I was immediately okay because I was immediately like, it's great because a lot of the stuff but yes. Okay. So I've definitely I drive around a lot. I drive around a lot to a lot of Targets and Rosses looking for stuff. But probably the farthest I have gone for something like I knew specifically it would be there. And I oh god, this is about to get real. This is about to get real nerdy. All right. So there is a toy and comics and collectibles I guess you could call it a convention. It's not really a convention because it happens like once a week, once every 2 weeks. It's called Frickin' Sons. It's it's like an hour and a half away. I drove all the way down there looking for a Transformers Menasor from the new Transformers stuff. Because he's the Motor Master that combines into the Menasor, and you buy the individual Stunticons and you make he's a combiner. The Transformers 86 I want to say is when that movie came out.
Maybe 87.
Transformers the movie, the one that I actually consider Transformers the movie.
With Stan Bush, yes. Stan Bush music.
I get that we're of the generation that grew up with the Michael Bay movies, and I have a love-hate relationship with those movies too. But I can't get over just the absolute the slander for the 80s franchise. Okay, I get that that Transformers plays into G1 a lot, right?
Yes.
But that's the bread and butter. That's being well, Power Rangers really leans into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers a lot. It's yeah, dude. It's because that's when it was the most popular. I'm also I've been with your live the ones from the 70s, 80s. The 11 areas got translated into what Power Rangers because I really like back and forth and seeing how the usage footage and it's very interesting to watch the episodes back and here's the original episode, here's the episode 20 years later, and seeing them trying to do the best blend the footage and it's crazy that it's crazy weird stories, weird question that you have about Power Rangers. It's like this Japanese footage made so because government adults, I think weird kill people and children. Not child violence in suicide actually crazy. That wasn't everything about girls that had to justify why we stretch one of the kids into a whole every time. Well, so funny enough, that's actually a thing in the Japanese show. Just not about Ranger. So like Tiger Ranger. The Tiger Ranger that's been shot in the Japanese version is the second season of Power Rangers it goes to Tiger Ranger and the only but they didn't want to cycle out the suits because they didn't think about it just yet because the suits from Power Rangers televised. So and there's 90 something and so they wanted to get the suits. So they just had one of the Rangers cycle out their suit to be the White Ranger, the sixth Ranger, the Ranger in the Japanese show because that guy kind of they did suits was the main character problem. We always kind of pick a character we favorite them for a lot of fights, all the Power Rangers. Ranger. They sometimes kind of around the Ranger, the Ranger, in that case because the kid he was just the story they had a lot of main fights with the monsters with the kid and the White Tiger Zord. And so they just kind of cycled out the fighting fighting everything and then never see them unless kind of original footage they made it costume whatever.
Okay. Well, hey, I didn't know that. We learned something new on this show every week. Every other week.
I can make a whole podcast just about Power Rangers.
Put a pin in that. Okay. So let's see.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yes.
How has it what is it like for you to live with fellow storytellers? As that has been a big part of your life, I asked Campbell the same question. So what has it been like for you living? What is it like living with storytellers? They're annoying. Don't tell Campbell this. They're annoying. They storyteller. I hate them.
Fucking annoying and shit.
They always want to talk about the mise en scène.
Want to talk about movies.
What about the Godfather? What about the Godmother? What we talking about the Godfather? You know what I mean, brother?
I don't think I've said the phrase mise en scene since fucking film school.
Since the last episode, buddy, you said it there too.
Okay, yeah. Ironically,
I entrapped you.
It doesn't count.
What's it like living with storytellers? How what's it like?
I mean,
living with people in the same industry.
It's fun and it's cool. It's definitely fun living with very like-minded people that you can kind of talk to at the same kind of level that you like. When you go to film school for 4 years, it irreparably damages your brain and makes it to where consuming art and media is like a whole fucking thing now. And so having other people that have gone through kind of that similar trauma bonding experience, it makes waxing philosophically about the legendary MonsterVerse Godzilla movies, like for hours and hours. Like like with other people, they're kind of just like, okay, you don't want to talk about anything else, like especially I'd say it was a lot more present in film school, just because we've all been working, but like there was certainly like a lot of like we used each other in a lot of our projects. Like there was a whole documentary that I made where it's just Evan and Campbell in sheet ghost costumes, pretending that the apartment is haunted, and yeah, I mean, it's like it's very like coming from a place where like nobody really kind of like does film, nobody really kind of wants to do film. The most people will talk about film as kind of in a very kind of superfluous way, if not just kind of that very nerdy like Avengers, but like I don't know, like having kind of those like-minded individuals that are also kind of on that same brain broken level of just kind of like, fuck, Tron Legacy was so good. Like, like it's good. It's good to be able to like say something like that and not have somebody be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, just because I don't know, there are some movies like that just kind of like are maybe not, or maybe not even like, I'd argue like culturally super significant. Like maybe like the Speed Racer movie like is not.
There's movies that stick with us, that I can't talk to my friends about. Like, did you guys see Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some for 2016? Like, I think it's really underrated, and they like have no idea what I'm talking about. There's certain things like
I love that movie. I think
I love you for loving that movie.
I think that's a good movie.
I love it. It's quickly become one of my favorite movies. I can watch it anytime.
I think it is a great descendant of Dazed and Confused. I think it's even. I like it a little bit more than that one. It hit me where I needed it to. Two more quick questions.
I like Pacific Rim.
A great movie. I had the
movie also
there. What about? Did you like the sequel?
Wait. Did you say Brothers Grimm?
Said Pacific Rim.
I thought you said Brothers.
Brothers Grimm. Yeah.
Traumatized me as a kid.
Sacha Baron Cohen movie.
Okay, two more quick questions for Chris, and then we're gonna get the both questions, and then we're gonna wrap up. I don't want to keep you guys longer than I have to. Yeah. Chris, what keeps you going in this industry of uncertainty? What keeps you pushing forward?
I mean, granted, there's a large amount of uncertainty. It's one of those things that's further like it's almost a little discouraging when you kind of see it from the outside looking in. You look at kind of filmmakers and film people, and they're just kind of so miserable, and they're just like, this shit fucking sucks. The industry's fucking awful. Yeah. They're not wrong. It truly is just like a capitalist blood-sucking parasite. But like, and the fact that art is meant to be created out of this industry that is so hell-bent on like, how can I make money out of this? Like it stifles creativity in every sense of the word. And like anybody that's like, yeah, but like, how else could you fund movies? And it's like, dude, fucking George Méliès was making like Trip to the Moon and shit. Like with what? Like what was he doing that with? What was the monetary incentive behind that? I'm sorry. Like, but it's just kind of like, what a stupid fucking thing to say. Yeah. The thing that really keeps me going in the face of uncertainty and an industry that only wants to profit and fans that as of late just kind of really like hating things is just like, I don't know, like knowing, like truly knowing that like the people working on some of this stuff, like that it is like a dream come true for some of them. For some of them it is a job, but like for some of them it is like a dream come true. Like especially like working in art department, like I've gotten to meet some very cool people. A friend of mine got to work on one of the latest seasons of The Mandalorian. She was working on making some of the helmets, the multiple fucking Mandalorian helmets that we see. Cool. She was literally telling me a story about it. She was like, I was like pulling all those, doing all that stuff. And it's like, and like, awesome. She's like a diehard Star Wars fan. Like her nickname is is like an in joke from Star Wars, and so like it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't know, like just to kind of know that like even if like the people on top are like I'm here for the money. I bought this
cheddar
franchise
cheese.
for the money. Like it's there are still people that work on things like Star Wars and Marvel and all this stuff that do genuinely really care about these products and like are fans of the thing. They are maybe not always the loudest voices, but like, you know, like it is still evident that they are there. Even in things that maybe like fans don't like there is still like, it's like the fact that it exists at all is crazy. You know what I mean? I feel like people get so kind of caught up in what things could be that they forget to kind of acknowledge like this fucking exists. Like we got this. Like I don't know. Like I guess to bring a specific example, like Ahsoka, right? Like I personally really liked the Ahsoka TV show. I was a very big fan of Clone Wars TV show. I was a very big fan of Star Wars Rebels, and I think Ahsoka was a very good continuation of those things. Did it maybe like, was it a perfect piece of Star Wars media? No, Star Wars isn't a perfect piece of Star Wars.
There's nothing that's perfect.
The original movies are kind of a mess. Like some of the original Legends books that like people kind of hold up as like this holy grail that Disney for some reason is tossed by the wayside. It's a fucking is a mess. Is a like if you had made some of those decisions now, like people would hate them. If you had in like if in one of like the new movies or something had Legends canon not existed, and in a sequel trilogy movie you'd been like, Luke's got a girlfriend that was Palpatine's other like apprentice, people would be like, what the fuck is this bullshit? But like now, like people are like pissed that Mara Jade is never gonna show up in Star Wars canon. It's like, just like, come on. Like I don't know, like all of it has always kind of been this weird nebulous building on the backs of things. We like to think that like there is some genius kind of behind the thing orchestrating and creating this, but it's truly just like a bunch of people just like, yeah, this would be cool, this would be a cool idea, and just kind of injecting their own personal ideas into the thing. Like Star Wars is the perfect example of like how many amazing creative people, not just, I mean, like, George Lucas of course came up with the original idea, but like Star Wars would not be what it is without people like Ralph McQuarrie, without even like modern people like Doug Chang, like it's actually insane. And like I don't know, like the fact that some of it even gets to exist, like that it still gets to be made, that it gets the attention that it does, and that it gets to push forward technology the way that it does. I'm like, hell yeah, this is awesome. This is great. I just want to do that. You know what I mean? I want to get to that. Yeah. And that's sick. Regardless of how many people are making money off of being like, women suck. Like it's like it's so like it's just like fucking just let me enjoy it.
Just you know, sometimes you gotta remember that it's not always for you, and things need to move on. We can't always cater to 40-year-old men.
And not only that, like
we
can enjoy things that aren't meant for you. You know, like I don't know.
Thank you, Campbell, for being the host. Okay, we have 3 more questions. Yes. 1 more for Chris, and then actually, Campbell, I would also like you to answer this one as well.
I'll spend another 10 minutes answering this question. Yeah, go ahead.
For both, so this is actually going to be for both of you.
Okay.
So whoever wants to answer first, what was the dumbest argument you ever got into during your time at film school with a fellow film
with each other, or like just in
general, with a fellow student, with a teacher? What is this over the dumb? What's a dumb thing you got into an argument over?
I never really fought in film school, though I do share Chris's hatred for who I'm betting he's going to bring up.
No, not to name names, by
the
way.
No, hold on. I don't hate anybody. Hate is strong. There's never, I mean, okay, I don't think
because for me it would be like I have The Last Jedi as my wallpaper on my laptop, and someone who I was friendly with
wait a
had
minute.
to like randomly be like, "Oh, you have the Last Jedi."
Oh no,
like,
I have a story.
I'm getting my lunch.
If that's what we're doing, then yeah, okay, I got a story like
things
that.
like petty things like
some kid tried to. We were in our cinematography class. Mandalorian season 1 was coming out. Some kid tried to besmirch Jon Favreau. Just like in class, like somebody was just like, yeah, I think Jon Favreau is like not a very good director, and I was like, on what fucking merit? Like, I was like, what are you talking? I was like, okay, like listen, I'm not a diehard Jon Favreau guy. Like, I'm not gonna throw myself in front of a train for Jon Favreau. However, it's just like, okay, hold on, wait. Iron Man, Elf, the Mandalorian, like what else do you want? Like Chef, like he jump started the MCU. He reinvigorated a live action Star Wars. He created one of the most recent like live action Christmas like classics to fucking date. Like, and he was just like, yeah, Lion King wasn't very good. I don't care if Lion King wasn't very good. He can make fucking 12 Lion Kings for all I care. He's got the industry credit to do whatever the fuck he wants.
That is exactly who I knew you were going to bring up. And I don't, hatred isn't the word, but it is people like him that I was venting about during Garrett's episode.
It's like, and it's like, it's like the dude, like, I don't know, like he made a movie about like him as a chef, and it's a metaphor for his time at Marvel.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, how are you gonna be like, this one movie he made wasn't good? And it's like, okay, dude, most of Ridley Scott's movies aren't good. Like, that doesn't mean I'm gonna besmirch Alien, Like, come on, the hell.
Okay. I think I remember what mine is. Johnny Rome and I got in an elevated we were both like at each other because I was saying how I love Mike Flanagan. I like Mike Flanagan. Okay. I think he's a good director. I think he's great at his job. I don't like that he continues to market some of his stuff as horror when it's not. Haunting of Hill House is a family drama with some ghosts involved. The same way that I think Walking Dead is largely a drama with some zombies here and there. Later in the seasons, that's not the case. People can kill me about this later. But Johnny and I got in an elevated screaming match about like what is horror and everything like that. And I like to be pretty calm during these arguments because I recognize at the end of the day, this is truly a difference of opinion.
He was very loud.
I'll tell you why I was fucking loud is because Johnny doesn't know how to shut the fuck up because Johnny will just keep fucking talking and you don't get to make a fucking point. So eventually I had to scream.
I'm going to clip that. I'm going to clip that and tag Johnny.
Just tag all of Johnny's TikTok followers.
Yeah. You're going to get the Legion is going to come after you.
I hope they come. And then I get to tell them all
fans are coming after you.
Stories.
There's going to be a TikTok that's going to go, the Planiverse is actually horror. And this is why Campbell Russell-Troutman's wrong. And then it's going to be a whole thing.
But it'll get a bunch of traffic to your podcast. So really, it was just a ploy the whole time.
Campbell is controversy, and controversy is views.
I am controversial.
Just don't say shitty ones.
Midnight Mass was a masterpiece, and I think all of his shows are great. I don't like that he keeps marketing them as horrors, though. Make a fucking horror movie like Midnight Mass. Keep making those. That's perfect. I don't care about the son's drug problem.
Yeah, he made Dr. Sleep.
Scary Ghosts. I want to see Scary Ghosts.
He made Hush. That's a horror movie.
Yeah.
He made Dr. Sleep.
Sorry, I don't mean to giggle at Hush. Hush is fine. Hush is good.
It's not my favorite Flana thing.
It's a thing to recommend to somebody when they've like watched most things already. I just remember that in film school there was. I mean, you could.
I don't think.
Bring up. Maybe cut this out just because it's so specific, but.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I feel like they're gonna watch this though. Like I don't know.
No, we don't have. We'll go. Well, we could. I know exactly what you're talking about.
We don't have to. We've got two other questions.
Because I remember hearing about it and going, "What?" But that's okay. For both of you, you two are. I call you guys pals. Yeah, you guys seem friendly with one another. How do you keep your friendship going? Or is it over and you're just faking it for the podcast?
We're kind of faking it.
We're faking it for the views.
I I don't mean to ram my butt first into the conversation, but I will say, in my experience, truly staying friends with Chris and Evan, it's a very much an enigma to me, because everyone's like, don't move in with like your best friends and things like that. For some reason, we have never reached a point in our like trio relationship where we have been like, God, I fucking hate this guy. I'm so fucking sick.
Like any kind of like big kind of like anything that has ever turned into like an actual like and nothing has ever really become like an argument, like a serious argument.
Yeah.
There've been maybe like a moment of like disagreement. I think there was like a moment where like Evan and I got like really angry at each other really late at night, and then immediately like the next day we're like, that was my bad. I shouldn't have done that, dude. Like it was like, I don't know, like maybe it's just because we're all very like non-confrontational, just kind of like people that like are aware of the other people in the space for the most part. Like it's, and I say for the most part as like a me thing, not as like a Campbell really sucks. Just like I live in the living room, so sometimes it's a bit like I take up a bit of space. Like I mean, certainly like I think having a lot of kind of similar interests, kind of having just different interests. Like it's not just kind of like the same, like, I don't know, like 4 things. Like it's just, there's always so much stuff that we can do together. Like whether it's like kind of playing a bunch of different video games, watching different movies, just kind of having conversations about weird, random nerd shit. Like, I don't know. It works. It works really well, and it's fun and it's good. And I think we also do a good job of kind of giving each other space when necessary. Like there are definitely, I don't know, it's probably just because like, I mean, it's also because of like work and stuff like that. But there's a lot of times like where like I maybe won't see them for like a day or two just because like I'm working and I'm going to bed early, and like it's just, it doesn't work out that way. And so like it does like feel like, oh, I haven't seen you guys in a few days. Like we're supposed to talk about things, you know what I mean? Like it's not like
I will say, because I'm very much not the opposite of Chris, but I very much teeter in a different direction where I like things a particular way and get very impatient very easy over a lot of small things. And I would say that I'm trying to work on it. I'm very much not. I probably should, but I don't know what it is, because Chris, by all accounts, he's a good roommate to have, and he's not like bad in any way. But Chris like is messy, and it's like, yeah, I've gotten sick of him being messy, and we've talked about it. But like, there's never been a point where I've been like, oh fuck, Chris, fuck, get me the fuck out of here. I'm gonna like, dude, I'm so sick of this fucking Chris guy. The only time I'm not a confrontational person, but I like to think if there is something wrong, I will let you know that there is something wrong, because I don't like shit being aired out so much, because it drives me nuts. It eats me up inside.
Yeah.
And my only issue, I think the reason why I never start shit with Evan though, is because when Evan is upset or angry in the one moment for 5 seconds a year that he is, it is just talking to an angry volcano. You cannot reason with Evan. Like anytime you say something, he's shutting you down. He's like, no, not listening. I'm not fucking listening.
Okay. Last question, because we gotta wrap up, or my editor's gonna edit me out of existence.
He's gonna kill us.
To wrap up this edition of Couples Counseling, what's your favorite thing about the other? And also throw in your favorite thing about Evan. I love Evan. I want to hear more about Evan. What's your favorite thing about each other and Evan?
About me? No, my favorite thing about Campbell is my favorite thing about Campbell is probably, I think Campbell has a very cool and unique artistic vision and style. Seeing kind of some of the stuff that he has worked on, some of the stuff he draws, some of the stuff, knowing a lot of the stuff he takes inspiration from, because I live with the fuck. I talk to him about everything. So like, I know what all your inspirations are, bastard. And I think it's very cool. Like, I think you draw from very very specific, out of the box, very like off perspective type stuff, and I think that very much reflects in some of your work. And but also like I think that you are a very like a thoughtful person. I think that's probably the nicest way that I can say that you're a paranoid bastard that thinks about things. Also, I'm the same. I also overthink about things. But as two overthinkers, you definitely like, I don't know, your approach to your own content and your own art, like you want to make it feel fleshed out and intelligent, and not just kind of like, look at this fucking whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's cool in their style, but also there is substance in there too, and I think that's cool.
Campbell.
I think Chris is
it's smelly, stinky baby.
No, I think my favorite things about Chris is that he's an extremely patient, charming fellow that very much so when I was in school, I very much looked up to those traits, from how easily he could click with people and how easily he was able to scheme and manipulate his little way into the
Just fucking
cheese
on people and my whole way into the industry, not looking back.
No, Chris very much so is a very driven person, and he has so many traits that I admire about him, very mainly because I could never picture myself doing the shit that he does, because he brought me on a 9 to 9 set once, and I wanted to leave 3 hours in, and Chris was tugging away, and he was doing that on the reg, and I was literally like, how the fuck do you do that every day? And he also when he gets obsessed with something, it is like it is truly admirable how much like passion he pours into a thing. I'm not going to expose him, but behind him is rows of collectibles, and of course I as his roommate and friend can be like, oh, you fucking nerd, but I have to look at that and be like, God, that is actually fucking impressive. Like,
okay. Anything quick about Evan?
Evan is very much a peacekeeper. He does not like to get angry. He does not like to make people very upset, only if it's funny. I know this because he will actively try to make me angry constantly, especially when we're playing video games. And he will purposely drive me fucking insane. But I love Evan because he is like such a nice guy and is like very much no bullshit. He very much, I don't mean to be like, everyone's fake. Evan's the only one that's not fake. Evan's not fake at all.
Evan's the real one.
Evan's the only real one, I know. But like, when Evan sees something that's bullshit, like, he's very neurotypical. He's like, why? Like, why the fuck would I do that? That is a trait I hugely respect, because he's like, I'm not gonna do that. Why would? Or it's like, that person sucks. That made me feel horrible. I don't like that. Like,
no.
He's very no nonsense, and I really appreciate that about him.
I agree with that. I appreciate that Evan is a very no nonsense kind of also very disciplined person, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is, I believe, the longest episode before Emily makes edits. Even with edits, it might be longer.
Even with edits, I'm sure it'll be long.
It will. Hey, maybe it'll be a 2-parter. Who knows? Maybe we'll do that. Who knows?
I'm sure that's what people want.
We'll drive up the numbers.
This
a cliffhanger. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the show. I very much appreciate you taking the time. I'm trying to grow this thing, and I want it. The show's it's about people. It's about people, showing the people behind the stories that they watch and that they take in.
People.
Exactly. So yes, thank you both for joining me. Thank you for listening and or watching. I'm just gonna wrap it up. If you want to follow the socials, they're on the screen. They're in the description. Go find them. If not, okay. I've been your host, not just a guy, the guy, Garrett Briones, and I will talk at you next time. This has been a Not Just A Guy production.